Frank R. Marczynski of 7300 20th Street West, Village Green, lot number 441, Vero Beach, Florida, 32966. Frank's phone number is area code 407-562-2774. The recording was made by Jim Walkinshaw of the Oldsmobile History Center on January 10th, 1989. This is tape number 1 of 1 tape. Hey Frank, maybe you could start with your name and address and phone number.
All right, will do. My name is Frank. Middle initial is R. Last name is Marczynski. And I live in Vero Beach, Florida. Zip code is 32966. My address is 7300 20th Street West, Village Green, number 441. Reason for 441 is that I live in an adult mobile home park. My telephone number is area code 407-562-2774.
Great. Frank, if you would just go back and start us where you started at the plant and when that was.
Well, I joined Oldsmobile Division in April of 1946, having served 4.5 years in the military service and came out with the rank of captain. While I was in the military service, I was a commanding officer of a transportation corps company consisting of personnel was about 120 men, and equipment we had 40-foot semi-trailers and tractors, about 60 units.
Okay. Now, when you came to the plant, then you had not been there before. That's the first time.
That was the first time.
The war was over.
The war was over.
Okay. What did you start doing?
What did I start doing? I worked in Stores 1, Material Handling Stores 1.
Okay.
And not having worked in a so-called automotive plant, prior to going to the service, I was a store manager for a grocery store.
Okay.
I ran the grocery department there, whereas the owner ran the meat department. So I had been in that work ever since I graduated from high school, which was in 1931, and I graduated from Union High School in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
All right.
So I joined the service out of Grand Rapids rather than Lansing.
All right. And that was the first time you'd been in an industrial plant?
That's the first time I had been in an industrial plant. And at that time, when they asked me what I wanted to do, I had no knowledge of what I wanted to do being in a plant like that. So they recommended either, let's see, what did they, was working on the dock and or there was something else that I just can't recall. Oh, welding, spot welding.
Oh, okay.
Well, okay. I knew I'm not mechanically inclined, so I took to working on the dock. So I started out as a dockman, unloading semis and loading semis with material. And that time, a lot of the material, for instance, the springs came in bulk. And so we had to unload those out of the back of semis into gons.
They were all loose in the truck?
They were loose in the truck. That's what I was driving at. They came loose, and then as we threw them into the gons, we had to keep count in order to check them out.
What did you do? Go in the truck and haul out 2 or 3 at a time? Or
the fork truck would bring the gon and set it on the bed of the truck in the back, and then I and my partner would go in there, and then we unload these. Well, I'm using springs as an example, but there are other things too. Yeah. Or kegs of screws and all that. We'd unload those onto these these movable
pallets.
That's what I was trying to think. Yeah.
And Stores 1 where was Stores 1?
Stores 1 Well, I'm trying to think of the building. Of course, we had building numbers then. I
Yeah.
just missed.
Was that part of the assembly plant?
It was up near the assembly plant. Yes,
Okay.
it was near the assembly
All
plant.
right.
And I had been doing that for, a couple of years or so. In fact, we used to go out on the dock there and load railway cars with rear axles and front axles
All
for
right.
the BOP assembly plants.
Yeah,
We used to do that.
that must have been up in building 16 or 21.
That's right. It was 16 or 21.
Yeah,
And I can remember in the winter, of course, we were all bundled up, and we'd have to, these movable hoists that we would put into the cars and hook them up electrically so that they work.
yeah.
It got so cold out there that these hoists would often freeze up on us,
Oh, my God.
and we would have to take them down, take them inside the building, thaw them out, then bring them back and finish loading our box cars.
So that's how, you actually had a hoist that you set up inside the box?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
these are hoists that you could
Yeah.
set up there, and then you plug them in, and
Yeah.
it worked
Uh-huh.
electrically.
And you loaded the axles, were they loaded in racks or something?
We had racks, yeah, they were tear down racks,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
we'd set them up and
Uh-huh.
load these in there. And then I'd done that for quite a long time, and then a call came down that they needed typists in the stores
Okay,
in the office there, and so I volunteered for that, and then I took that and I continued with that until there was an opening in truck repair, which was in an old building, and I think the number was 10.
that was a building number.
That was a building number
Yeah.
10, and that was eventually torn down.
Back in there by the smokestacks.
Back by the smokestacks,
Uh-huh.
yes,
Uh-huh.
I can remember then, they needed a clerk over there, so, the clerk was working there, got promoted to another job
Yeah.
out of the department,
Yeah.
so I stepped in there, and so I had been with, truck repair. I can't recall the year, ever since until I retired.
Uh-huh.
In the interim, they made a little change into material control, but that wasn't my bag,
Yeah,
so I got out of that and went back to truck repair.
They did that all of building 10, was that all truck repair?
No, they had forgings and stuff in there too.
Oh, did they?
Yes,
Okay.
uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Well, they had a section of it for the truck repair department.
Uh-huh.
But at that time, if I recall right, I think we only had about a little over 100 pieces of equipment that we serviced.
Okay. Were those all electric in those days or?
No, they were both gasoline and electric.
We did.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had both gasoline and electric. But as I recall, and I don't know the exact figures, but we only had about 100 and some odd pieces of this equipment that like fork trucks
Yeah.
and transporters and
Okay,
things like that.
yeah,
And then eventually, when I retired, we had well over 1,000 pieces of
Wow.
running equipment. So
big change.
a big change.
Yeah.
And I can remember my boss was Cliff Eddy,
Okay,
and of course he's passed away.
yes,
He
now that
passed
was
away.
when you started
Started in truck repair.
in building 10, he was
Yeah,
there.
building 10. But when I first started, I started on the docks.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Doors
no,
one.
I mean, your truck repair guy was Cliff Eddy when you
That's right.
started.
That's right.
Okay.
He was a tough old bird, but I liked him.
Was he?
Yes, he was.
Uh-huh.
But he and I got along famously.
Was his office down there too?
Yes, we had a little dinky office
Yeah.
there and smelled from the fumes.
Oh, no.
It was
Oh.
dirty. It was not like the old time.
See, building 10 was that a wooden building?
Yeah, I think it was a wooden building, and
Uh-huh.
eventually it got torn down, and the
Building 37, I think.
37 went in there.
Yeah.
That's right, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay, so you had, let's see, building 37 was built, I think, in 51, so you had to get in there, building 10 before that, so.
That's right.
You remember when they tore those all down then, Frank?
Well, I don't remember the exact years, but
No, but I mean,
I was there.
What
Yeah.
happened how'd they get the chimney down?
I can't recall that. I don't recall seeing that
Okay.
chimney come down, but I know that.
Where did
We
you
were-
go after they tore the building down? You must have moved somewhere.
We moved right next door where where they made during the war. They made those shells and stuff for the
Oh, okay.
what that.
Would that have been 34, maybe building
that-
34 or
that-
56?
The numbers
Don't ring a
escape me
bell.
right
Okay,
now.
Yeah, all right.
But anyway, it was the old, they called it the rocket plant. That's what they
Oh,
called it.
okay, all right.
You know,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
that's what they called it.
okay. So
Yeah.
you temporarily moved over.
So that's where we ended up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And where the press, and their presses went in there too.
Okay, so that must have been 34.
That's got to be
Building
34. Yeah.
Okay.
Presses went in there too.
And then you went to that area with the truck repair. Now, eventually you ended up out in building 37. Was that later? Or had
We had moved. Yes.
you moved
We
again?
moved again. We ended up, I think it was at 37.
Yeah, right up there in the front. along the
That's
street.
right. That's right. That's right. We had moved 3 times.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
okay. Was Cliff Eddie there the whole time that you were there? Or?
Cliff Eddy was there, and then eventually Cliff Eddy passed away, and let's see, my next foreman was Bud Ames.
Buddy.
Bud Ames came in there, and there was an interim after Bud retired that Dick England was in there for
Oh, yeah. I
a
remember
short
that.
time,
Yeah.
and then finally Ron Brabant came out of salvage and took over.
Okay.
And that's when I retired.
All
was
right.
with Ron Brabant.
Yeah. Yeah. How did the truck repair business change in that, 20, 30-year period in there?
Well, it
Other
changed.
than numbers, I
The
think.
the only thing I know, but numbers, and then gradually we were wheeling, we're getting away from gasoline to
Okay.
battery
All right.
service,
Yeah.
and so that increased battery service, and there was some talk about using propane gas operated trucks, but my superiors thought it was too dangerous, so
Oh,
we
okay.
kind of shied away from propane gas, so
All right.
went more or less to battery powered
Yeah.
trucks.
Yeah.
And then eventually we took over the transportation corps, and that was under my boss's jurisdiction, was the transportation corps, and that moved way out
Over by Plant 2.
by Plant 2.
Yeah, that new building that we built over.
Yes, that's right. That's
Yeah.
where they went.
Yeah.
And they were always apart from us too, because prior to their moving over by Plant 2, they had a place up near the driveway.
Yeah, the old industrial transport building. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, on the corner up there by the railroad track.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's where they were. So they were under our jurisdiction. And the only way I came in contact with him, because I would have to type up the purchase requisitions for
Okay.
material. Of course, we had our mechanics there,
Yeah.
and then through my office, we bought the tractors, semi-trailers,
Yeah. Okay.
and take care of the tire service and all that.
Yeah. Did you have to keep track of all the people's times and all that stuff too?
No, not really, not the
Okay.
times,
Yeah.
no. My primary job was procurement of parts.
All right.
I had established quite a reputation amongst the different representatives that called on us for parts. So we had no problem. We were number one as in their eyes, the
Yeah,
representatives, like
yeah.
for instance, Automatic Transportation Corps that sold us their forklift equipment and
Yeah,
all that.
yeah.
So there was no problem for me. All I'd have to do is get on the telephone and say, Frank's calling. We need the such and such and such, and they
Yeah.
would ship it immediately.
Yeah.
So we established that kind of
Uh-huh.
rapport with the vendors.
See, we used a lot of automatic trucks. And
Yes, a lot of automatic trucks,
Was it
and then second,
Baker.
was second. Then we had Clark's. Then we had Heister,
Oh yeah.
and in fact, we at one time had bought the largest piece of equipment for this particular area from Automatic, and that was a die-platform truck. It was a huge monster thing.
Oh yeah.
And I can remember when we bought that they had to reinforce the floors in the press plant there where this monster was going to be used. It was that big and that heavy,
Uh-huh.
where it handled these great big dies.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a flatbed
That was that flatbed,
Yeah,
yeah.
that one.
Oh, I think it was like a 16-tonner or something like that. It was huge.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some of those dies were very heavy.
Ties were heavy.
Yeah.
And then the other big, I call them monsters, was that big Ram truck that had a arm that stuck out where we used to move rolls of steel.
Oh, the coil
The
handler.
coil handler.
Oh,
The
yeah.
coil handler.
Bad name, but we used to call it the pecker trucker.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Those are big monsters.
Yeah. Did we have, Frank, how did we buy them? Did we go out on quotes and how did we get those?
Yes, yes, of course, with the superintendent would have to come up with a so-called budget for the year.
Okay.
And then the higher ups like Cook and Federer would have to approve his budget.
Yes.
Then was using an example like we had $1 million to spend for a piece of equipment in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so they would start out with that, and then we would look over what equipment was in age had to be replaced.
All right.
All right, the older we replaced those. Then if we had some special work coming up, then we used the other money to buy the special equipment. But we always kept increasing the number of pieces that we were using each year. And then we always managed to spend all that money because if we didn't, they took it away from us.
Right, I'm sure. Right. How about batteries?
Batteries were the same thing. That came out of that budget.
Same sort of thing.
Yes, he had to. The superintendent had to estimate how much he was going to use for batteries.
Yeah.
And of course, batteries. In fact, we had 4 different battery stations.
Oh, the charging places?
Charging places,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I call them battery stations, but they were charging places. So we had 4 of those scattered throughout the plant, so they'd be accessible to the trucks working in that area,
Yeah.
where they wouldn't have to waste time coming back to one central
Right.
spot.
Do you remember where those were by any chance?
Well, there was not really.
Okay.
I see. It's like I say, Jim. Those numbers are escaping me.
No,
now.
that's all
It's
right.
been
I know, it's
over
been
10
10 years.
years.
Yeah. Let's see, who were your big bosses, so to speak, over the years?
Big
there,
bosses over the years. Well, there was Howard Kane,
Frank? All right.
and then there was
Dick Whiters?
Dick Whiters. That's the name I was
All right.
trying to think
All
of.
right.
Dick Whiters, and of course, when I would take requisitions, of course, I'd have to take them into Dick Whiters, then he would put his approval on it. Then from there, I would have to take them into Ray Federer.
All right.
He put his approval on it. From there, they went higher up to Cook. Sometimes it was Cook, and yeah, it was Cook
Mhm.
at that time. And then come back and then go
Yeah.
through channels to get them approved, so
Mhm.
forth.
Okay.
It's exciting. I enjoyed that.
What would be a typical day's job for you?
A typical day's job.
Yeah, how
for
much
me.
you have done during a day's work?
Well, I don't know. It would be typing up requisitions for parts.
All right.
And mostly obtaining parts for repair.
Okay.
The repairs.
Was that a lot of, did you carry a lot of parts in stock?
We
Frank?
carried, yes, we had a separate department over in Stores F receiving.
All right.
They had for truck repair parts, and we keep an inventory there. And then the parts would be assigned a symbol, what they call a symbol number,
Mhm.
and we would order them by symbol numbers.
All right.
Like for instance, so we used to have the Kalamazoo little platform trucks that the people would run around
Sure,
with.
yeah.
Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, then that would have like a KZ number,
Mhm.
KZ10, and that would apply to like, well, for instance, a wheel or something like that.
Okay.
And so each one of these would carry a symbol, and that was up to me to assign those symbol numbers.
How did
I
you
would-
know what to store?
I would have to, well, it was through experience and through years. We would learn that the fast-moving parts, let me put it
Yeah.
that way, as far as repair was concerned.
Okay.
It would show up. And
Did
then
you keep track of what was
Yes,
repaired?
yes, definitely. We had to keep an inventory, a running inventory.
But you knew that, like Kalamazoo truck number so-and-so had a wheel been
That's right.
replaced and an
That's right.
axle and
That's,
blah, blah.
we
kept
kept
all-
track of that, yes. That was another thing, and I don't know how you'd classify that, but I'd have to keep track. And we had what we call a history card on each piece of equipment.
Oh, yeah.
History, when it was obtained, how much it cost,
Mhm.
model number, serial number,
Okay.
and so forth. And we always kept referring to those, to that history card when it came to that particular truck, when it came up for repair.
Did you log in the repairs on
And
that?
we would log anything of a major,
All right.
major,
Not a light bulb change.
not a light bulb change or
Yeah.
anything like that, but
But
something.
overhauled an
If it was overhauled,
Yeah.
yes, on the back of that history card,
Uh-huh.
there was a space for that. We'd keep track of that.
Okay.
And we tried, as much as possible, is to overhaul each piece of equipment, say, once every 3 or 4 years,
Okay.
something like that.
Did that little method, was that there when you came in?
No, I instituted that.
You started that?
Yeah, I started that.
What did you
history
do
card.
before that?
Because we didn't have that
Yeah.
many pieces of equipment.
But how did you try and keep track when you first came in? Was there any?
No, it was up to me to ferret all that out when I came in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this history card system, I don't want to take the credit for it, but I primarily saw the need for something
Sure.
like that, so
Sure.
I put it into practice.
Well, time-wise, where did that kind of come in the middle there somewhere or early on?
No, after I'd been there about a couple of years or so,
Okay.
and then I noticed that we kept adding
Yeah,
equipment, so
yeah.
something had to be done.
Uh,
And of course, a model number and the serial number is quite important when you go to ordering parts.
sure.
And then these manuals that we used to have, I'd have a library. We used to get 2 copies for each piece of equipment. So one copy would stay down on the floor,
Mhm.
the mechanics used, and one copy would be up in the office.
Oh, yeah.
So when that copy down got torn and dirtied up, then they'd have another
Yeah.
place for reference.
This would be like the shop manual, how to
That's
fix it.
right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Did you ever get, before you left, Frank, was that ever to the point where you had to stick it into a computer of any type or?
There was talk about computers, but the computers hadn't
Hadn't-
come into being.
All right,
when I
hadn't
left.
quite got there yet.
That's right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it was all done with a pencil on a card.
Pencil and card,
Uh-huh.
yes. A lot of writing.
Yeah, yeah. And then for budget purposes, Frank, did you use those cards that you developed then to develop your needs? Is that?
We
what you
would
worked
go
from?
back, we would go into these cards for primarily age
Hmm.
to see
Okay.
what should be replaced in that particular year.
Yeah,
All right. Our equipment average at that time for replacement, we would say like 10 years. We use that as a basis.
okay.
10 years.
That's what you would expect one to last.
The light, yeah, like 10 years. Now, there were some pieces of equipment that we would call lemons prior to that.
Oh, okay.
That we would, yeah, that would show up in
Alright.
this history system we would call lemons. So those would have to be replaced earlier than that. But that was the purpose of
Yeah.
this, was to, Did
the lemons occur in a particular brand? Or
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not our good brand.
Well, maybe I don't know what I should say or
Oh,
not.
that's okay.
But
Nobody's gonna.
no, I know it was. I personally, I never liked Clark.
Oh, really? The
That's
car
right,
tractors are very good.
Clark equipment.
Yeah. I take it the automatic machines were reasonably durable?
They were reasonably durable, yes, and so were the Bakers.
All right.
All right, and then in gasoline powered, the Heisters,
Oh, okay.
and we used the Heisters mostly unloading chassis frames.
All right.
We used them outdoors.
Let's see, were you there when we bought that great huge frame truck that double decked those babies?
Yes,
Oh, that was another monster.
that was another monster. But in the beginning, it was a pain too,
Was it?
because we had so many problems with it. It was a fairly new and experimental thing
Yeah.
as far as we were concerned. So we did have our problems with that, but it did save time and it loaded an awful lot of frame. In fact, they came in on these flatbeds and all you did was the forks come in, you took a whole section
whole
of frame and stacked them there.
Yeah, that was a big pile of frames we used to move all at once.
That's right, and it's a time saver too. Yeah, that's that big too. I believe that was either Clark or Heister, I can't recall.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't
But it was,
either.
I remember when that was a big
Uh-huh.
baby.
Yeah. Well, then for these gasoline powered trucks, we had gasoline stations outside that daily I would have to go and check the consumption, and
Okay.
it was up to me to inform purchasing when we needed that gas to have those tanks filled with gasoline.
Oh, okay.
So
So you were the guy that did the kind of the daily inventory.
daily inventory
Uh-huh.
things of the gasoline,
Uh-huh.
and I remember well. Hauser was purchasing of gasoline.
Okay.
And
Did you get all of the pumps then around or just the ones out there in Division Street that were right in front of the?
there were three. I think there were three locations that I
Okay.
had
So you
to.
did. You were all around the
Three
plant?
locations that yes, around the plant
Yeah.
that I had to check daily for
Yeah.
that. And there was a certain time of the day that I did that. And then when I noticed that the consumption was down, I didn't dare let them go empty.
Oh, no. Gracious, yeah.
That was. And I can remember many times on the docks there, especially at 5 used to be the bugger where some of these fork trucks, these drivers would run them off that end of the dock right down
Oh,
into
no,
the
into
wells.
the well?
That's happened
Oh.
many a time.
How would that happen?
And I don't know, they just, I don't know, brakes gave out or what? I can't say, but,
Didn't anybody get hurt on this?
fortunately, nobody got seriously. Some of them did get hurt, but not
Well, it
seriously.
seemed like you get.
That has happened.
Oh.
That has happened. Or a semi would back into the well there, and then they would start unloading, and he would have his wheels blocked, and
Oh,
then that semi would move away,
push away.
and
Uh-huh.
naturally the fork truck would go down in between the semi and the end of the well. That happened many times.
How'd you drag those out of there when that happened?
Well, of course you'd have to go. You have to pull the semi out and go in from the other end
Yeah.
and lift them out with a crane and so forth.
Yeah.
Those are common occurrence.
Huh. Well, I'm just surprised didn't squash somebody.
Yeah.
Well, what,
I don't-
Frank, out of the bosses that you had, who was the best boss you had?
They were all good.
Really?
I'm that kind of guy. I can get along with anybody,
Yeah.
and I like each and every one of them. Like I said in the beginning, the toughest one I thought was Cliff Eddy.
All right.
He was like a bull, but you had to know the guy, and he and I got along very much. In fact, when I went into that department, I didn't think I was going to last a week there because
Oh, really?
I did. There was something about him that I didn't
Uh-huh.
just get with it.
Was he a gruff person?
He was a gruff person. That's right. His bite was worse. His bark was worse than his bite. Let me put it that way.
Uh-huh.
He was a gruff person. Well, we got along famous. Then like I say, after Eddie left, I think who stepped in there? Ames came in.
Okay, what kind of a guy was Bob?
Ames was very likable. Very likable. In fact, he always talked golf. He was quite a golfer. Oh, yes. But he was a very likable. And then after Ames left, I think Dick England stepped in there for a short period.
Yeah.
And then Ron Brabant.
All right.
Ron Brabant came in. He was fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about your big bosses?
Big bosses.
Yeah. What? Did you see Howard Kane very often, for example?
Yes, and yes. In fact, Howard Kane was next in line.
Yes.
At the time that I came into the
Oh, I
department,
see. Okay.
he was Howard Kane there.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Okay.
And in fact, I always kicked myself because Howard Kane had recommended me. At that time, they needed foreman,
Yes.
and I don't know. He recommended me to become a foreman, and I tried it once or twice, and then I didn't care for it. I wanted to get back into my
Yeah.
groove, my Nick. I don't know why, but he was good. And then after he left, then the Whiters came in.
Yes. What, did you have some good mechanics and some not so good mechanics?
Oh yes, we had all kinds. We had some very good mechanics. We had a colored fellow that I thought was a number one welder. Because we had some welders in our, and that was his name was Thompson. I can't. Bob Thompson. Yeah,
Okay.
he was fantastic.
Mhm.
In fact, we didn't have too many colored people in our department. I think we had only 2 or 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
We had to have them because of the. There was something about the quarter or
Yeah,
something. We had to have so many.
EEO stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have any ladies working with you?
Not until later,
All right.
towards the end, yes.
All right.
In fact, this is interesting because we had some that became mechanics.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
How'd they
Now
do?
that you mentioned, fantastic.
Really?
They came out good. Not too many, and I.
Okay, we're back to the ladies.
Yeah, the ladies. There was. I think there were 2 or 3 of them that tried out for that, and they panned out famous,
Oh, that's
fantastic. Of course, they didn't handle the heavy, dirty stuff like the other mechanics
Okay.
did, but they held their own.
Uh-huh.
They were bad.
So you had mentioned, Frank, that somewhere in there you were a member of the singing group.
Yes, Rocketeers.
The Rocketeers.
In fact, there's one that
Yeah.
charter member, one of the first.
Okay. What? Tell me about that. What was that?
This was at the time that Wolfram was the plant
The general manager.
general manager,
Yeah.
Wolfram, and of course his son-in-law, Dave McTell.
Okay.
And Dave McTell's wife was a Wolfram.
Okay.
All right, okay.
I'm with you.
And so at that time they were promoting. Well, it was a part of the advertising campaign. It's that time when Lucille and Johnny
Oh yeah.
on radio.
Florence Henderson.
Florence Henderson.
Yeah.
At that time, she
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so
Bill
well.
Hayes, maybe.
Bill Hayes, right? Bill Hayes, Florence Henderson. In fact, they came down a couple of times there, and with the Rocketeers, we put on this show.
Oh, okay. So these were like announcement shows, or
Announcement shows. That's right. Yeah.
How many people in the Rocketeers?
Well, there were. Started out. Well, we were mixed.
Yeah.
We had about 35 to 40 men,
All right.
and just as many women,
Okay.
and they all came out of the different
Mhm.
division or different departments of the
Hourly
plant.
and salary.
Hourly and salary.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we rehearsed. I think it was in the evenings that we rehearsed someplace.
All right.
And yes, we had a fantastic group.
Did you rehearse there at the plant?
Yes, and we had an auditorium there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure. All
Up in
right,
the
that's where we.
auditorium.
Yeah, that's where we rehearsed in the auditorium. Yeah, in fact, we put on some fantastic Christmas shows too.
Oh, yeah.
At Christmas time
Yeah.
when they had Christmas
Uh-huh.
parties.
Yeah. Did you wear, or not costumes? but,
Ropes.
Okay.
I can't recall. And then there was a big centennial parade or something came up in that
Mhm.
period of time.
Uh-huh.
And of course, they had us out in new Oldsmobiles in the parade.
All right.
And we had these loud-speaking things, and the Rocketeers would, of course, it was recorded, but
Yeah.
they were singing
Yeah.
Oldsmobile song.
Yeah. You got to sing the Oldsmobile song a good many times.
Oh, I
Mary
guess so.
Oldsmobile?
Yes, my Merry Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
How long did that go on, Frank? Was
That went
that a
on
good
for a
many years?
period about, I don't know how, after that, how long Wolfram lasted in there. While Wolfram was
there?
there, we had the Rocketeers, but after he left,
Then
the
it-
Rocketairs folded.
It did, that was the
Yes,
end of it?
That was the end of it.
Yeah, no, David McTell was kind of the director?
He was the director, and
Alright.
we had Wanda Richards was our accompanist.
Mhm. How did David McTell work out? What kind of a person was he?
Oh, he is fantastic he was a voice teacher, you
He
know.
was a voice teacher.
And
Oh,
he
all
was
right.
what I call a professional singer.
Mhm.
He had done outside singing,
Okay.
professional work, but he was fantastic. I mean, as a director,
Yeah.
and I guess he was budgeted out of advertising for
All
that. It was a part of the advertising
Yeah.
budget that they handled that. Rocketairs.
So you guys didn't get paid for that, did you?
No, it was all
Just volunteer work.
Yeah. And then they came up with Saturday mornings, and they came up with the kids. And I forget there was a name for them. They were the sons and daughters of Oldsmobile employees, and he had a group of them
Who also sang?
who also sang as a group. They had a name similar to ours, but it was the same. I can't think. Guess my son sang.
Oh, yeah.
That's why.
Uh-huh.
And they rehearsed on Saturday mornings someplace. I
Okay.
forget where it was, but they were an offshoot of that.
Mhm.
They were quite popular at that time.
And that went on for several years.
That went on for several years,
Uh-huh.
like I said. Then after,
Yeah.
I think it was Wolfram's baby, anyways.
Yeah, well, it probably was.
Yeah.
For that relationship.
Yeah, the relationship. Yeah.
Well, was Wolfram ever there while you were doing your things
Oh yeah.
during the sessions,
Not during the rehearsals. He would only come when we put on
the regular
the
show?
regular show or something.
Okay.
And in fact, there was one show where, what's her name? I think it was Margaret Piazza, the opera star, sang with us
Oh.
someplace. And I think we had to go to some small town like Kalamazoo, Big or someplace for that concert.
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
Yeah, and she sang with us. Plus, we had done things with Florence Henderson
Yeah.
and Bill Hayes too.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That was interesting.
Mhm. Did you ever get any of that? Was any of that ever recorded? You never got a disc or something?
Never got a disc. No.
No. Okay.
In fact, I think some of the other divisions were doing something like that too. I think Flint had a
Oh, yeah.
had a singing group too
All right.
at that time.
Uh-huh. Any other of those kinds of things that were going on, Frank, that you were active in? What I'll call, they're kind of extracurricular sort of thing.
Not that I recall, not really. You said you had information. That teen magazine that we used to get.
Yeah.
You got copies of that
Yeah,
for your.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because that was really very informative.
Yeah.
I thought.
Yeah.
Teen magazine, more so than the thing we're getting now.
Which is General Motors.
This is General Motors.
Yeah,
You're right.
right.
You're right. That's right.
Yeah.
But Team Magazine was more for Oldsmobile
Yeah.
itself.
When did you retire, Frank?
I retired in 78, February 1st. I became 65 on February 1st, and had to retire. I would have liked to stay.
Would you?
Yes, I would have liked to
Well,
stay.
people can now, you know.
Yes, I know they
Yeah.
can, but it was just a year or two before
Yeah.
that came into being,
Yeah.
that 70. But I grew up with my job. I enjoyed my
Mhm.
job, and I would like to stay at least a couple of more years because my wife I was waiting for her to retire from
Sure.
the state.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Frank, over all that time that you were there was maybe the most significant happening at the plant?
I can recall of having seen Haile Selassie coming through the plant on tour.
Oh, okay.
You
Well,
know that? Ethiopia.
Yeah.
The emperor. He came through on tour,
Okay.
and it was so funny because the line of the tour that he had made through the plant, I can remember they were coming in and painting the fronts of the buildings and cleaning up that area that he was coming through, or places where he toured. It was all spick and span, whereas the rest of the plant was like it's a normal self, crummy.
forgot it.
Yeah, and I was trying to recall another dignitary that came through at the time I was there. I thought it was Eisenhower.
MacArthur.
MacArthur.
Yeah,
MacArthur.
was-
That's him. Yeah, MacArthur came through. They did the same thing for him.
Did they?
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to see these guys?
Yes, well, of course, they were with their route ran right in front of our plant where we were truck repair. So of course we would know in advance when they were coming through. So we all dashed to the window so we got to see them. Other than that.
Did everybody go out and line up on the streets or anything?
Oh, not really. No, we were supposed to be at work, but
Yeah, all right.
we would take time out
Yeah.
to run to the windows, look at her. It was fantastic.
What did Haile Selassie look like? Do you remember? Did he look? Was he in a business suit or?
No, he had a sort of a military uniform on.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he had a military uniform. Little short guy.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had him in an open open car.
Yeah.
Sitting there. But that was so fun.
And MacArthur must have been there after. It must have been in the 50s.
I think so.
I think it was 1953.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, MacArthur came through.
Yeah. Wonder what the reason for his trip was.
I don't know. I can't recall. Oh, another thing the Institute of Auto did was those tour trains.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Our department were the ones that obtained these tour trains.
Oh, yeah.
So we went shopping around, and that was what we came up with. Those tractors and trailers.
That was kind of a new thing in that era.
Not in that era. It was a tour train.
Okay. We used to drag people around the plant regularly.
Yes, they had regular scheduled tours. I don't know whether they still do it or not.
No, that quit.
Probably quit, yeah. But no, that came to be yeah. Where do we go from here? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Think back to your time out on the production floor. You mentioned bolts came in kegs.
Kegs, yeah.
How did we handle those things?
Of course, each keg had the quantity on the outside. Oh, there would be two of us unloaders, and then there would be a fellow they called a checker.
Okay.
And as each load came off, or each pallet would have to have a tag on it, showing the part number, quantity, and so forth. Then these would go into inventory, and eventually they'd end up on little assembly lines. But like I say, at the time I was there, a lot of this stuff came in bulk. But of course, screws were in kegs. Yeah, they were in kegs, but you had to unload these kegs.
Now these kegs must have been awful heavy.
Well, they would average around 50 to 75 pounds a piece. And if they were heavy, you just rolled them on.
All right.
Rolled them onto a wooden pallet.
All right.
But eventually those trucks got unloaded. Okay. But then there like springs and wheels even, and tires. We used to unload carloads of tires by hand.
They were just all loose.
All loose, yes. And you unloaded these and you kept count. And
did you rack those kinds of?
Those were racked too. They were racked. Yeah, they were. And radiators, something else.
Okay.
They came loose, but after a while they were graded.
Seen a lot of the transportable racks then that were in the trucks themselves that you just pick up with a fork truck.
That came later. That came later. But in the beginning, like I say, a lot of this stuff was bought.
Did you, when you started out, did you get to run a fork truck at all, do any of that kind of thing?
No, I did. In fact, I don't know why I never ran a fork truck. Just something that appealed to me, I guess.
Well, I was wondering if they had licenses in those days or not, the early days.
Well, you had to have, well, you were tested before you became a fork truck. Safety department somehow was involved in here.
All right.
Too, and they would come around and check these stuff. But driving a fork truck never appealed to me, so I stayed off of it.
See, were you there during the big strike then in 47
Yes.
or 8 or whenever that was?
Yes, I was there, but I was working.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I hired in 46.
Yeah.
And then there was that long strike.
Yeah.
Yes. I was on the. No, wait a minute. Somehow, when that strike came about, I had become salaried.
Oh, you had already,
I had already
Got
become
rid of
salaried.
All right.
Somehow I escaped any of the strikes.
all
I
right,
was one of the fortunate ones. I
Uh-huh.
escaped the strikes
all right.
because I had become salaried. I had already become this what they call a senior clerk.
Yeah,
I think they call
yeah.
it senior clerks at that
Okay.
time. Yeah, so I was one of the fortunate ones.
Yeah,
And of course, any strike came along while being salaried,
Yeah,
we
sure,
kept
you
on working.
just came in.
Yeah, we just came in.
Yeah. Okay. Any, interesting occurrences or happenings you can remember, Frank?
I'm trying to rack my brain here, and right now I can't think of anything that other than these dignitaries coming through on tours. Not really. Oh, I can remember one time when we had this, what was it, awful snowstorm that one of the roofs over there near the assembly line caved in,
Okay.
and Bob Cook, I think, was plant manager at that time, and he stayed with that thing, and it was just a matter of a day or two that line was down on account of that roof, and he was right there every minute pushing prod to get that thing fixed and get the line operating.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those things happen, and
So you must have had the snow removal equipment. Did that come in?
yeah.
Or was that in another?
No, the snow removal, that was contracted.
Oh,
We didn't have our own.
We did not have our own.
No,
snow
we didn't
removal.
have our own snow removal gun. That was contracted. The
All right.
outfitters came in. And then, yes, there were many times when they had to open us up there.
See, we had a street sweeper, didn't
We had a street sweeper, yes. In fact, we had, I guess, we went through 2 or 3 of those.
All right.
But the snow removal was contracted.
Okay.
And there used to be a lot of small fires, in the paint department,
Okay. Yeah.
but nothing of a major
Yeah.
that I recall. Nothing major.
Anybody ever get hurt down in the truck repair area?
Not seriously.
Okay.
Not seriously, though.
Pinch fingers.
Pinch fingers and stuff like that, but other than that, no, nothing serious. We had quite a bunch. In fact, we had 3 shifts.
Oh, did you?
We had worked 3 shifts there at one time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Now that wasn't during the whole.
No, not during the whole interim.
All right.
There was a period when we were awfully busy there,
Yeah.
that we had 3 shifts,
Uh-huh.
but then it worked back to 2.
Yeah.
2 was
Okay.
normal.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of overtime involved
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah.
Because those trucks have to keep going. So,
Okay.
everything else, I think I
Pretty well.
think we've pretty well
Well
covered
covered
it. Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Interesting time.
I was trying to think of that building that they removed, the first administration building.
Building 60?
Building 60, I
Yeah.
remember going there many times.
You must have had to run
I
over
just
there to
did.
get people to sign.
I did.
Yeah.
My requisitions and had
Purchasing guys were over there.
purchasing guys were over there. That's right.
Yeah.
I remember Hauser, and some of the others saying.
Yeah. Well,
Well, that was a daily thing too.
that was part of the daily
Yes, probably
task.
the daily task was
Uh-huh.
to go from mine 60 or to the new one. When the new one came out, the new administration building,
Yeah.
so the purchasing agents,
Right.
Plus we'd have to take requisition and tell them what we needed.
Sure.
They'd order parts.
Did you ever have to drive out to get parts? Take a car and go get them?
No,
Never had to do that.
no. Of course, we had a transportation car to do that.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
transportation.
All right.
We just told them what to do.
All right.
And of course, we had our sources there, like General Parts and Service.
Yeah.
And Reinhardt's in Lansing.
Yeah.
And we had our sources for parts. No problem there.
Mhm. Well, that's great, Frank. I think that's a
Think
nice,
so?
nice short coverage of what happened there during that period of time.
Never regretted my years.
That's,
It's a really good camera.
Oh, that's
It was
great.
wonderful. Actually.
Well, I remember you very well. We used to
Yeah, we used
get
to
together
talk-
every so often and do things.
Yeah. That was great.
Well, I'll just shut that baby up.
Yeah.